Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of Fortify Rights. I'm currently sending this message to you from Bangkok. Special thanks to the Burmese American Muslim Association and to Brian Lay for the kind invitation to send you a message here today. On the occasion of this very important event that you're holding in Los Angeles. I regret that I can't be there, but I do have very fond memories of the last time that I was able to meet with you all in California and talk with you about these very grave and very important issues facing your people, facing the Rohingya and other Muslims in Myanmar. I am just returning from about 3 weeks, the better part of 3 weeks I was in Rakhine State. Most of that time was spent with people who are living in the IDP camps. And as many of you know, there are more than 150,000 internally displaced people living in more than 60 IDP camps in Rakhine State. One point that we often make, and which I think is important to make, is that the camps where people are living are not typical IDP camps. These are better categorized as detention camps. People are confined to these camps, as many of you know. They can't leave. And this is one of the key fundamental issues facing the displaced population. But beyond that, I think it's also appropriate to refer to northern Rakhine State as likewise a situation of detention. The restrictions on freedom of movement are so severe that I think it's fair to say this is an entire population living in a situation of detention. And one of the things that that is so incredibly heartbreaking and causes torment not only for us, and not only, I'm sure, for all of you, but of course also for many people in Myanmar, is that all of these abuses are very transparent, and this is still a problem. I wish actually that I wish we had a more positive message to share with you today from here than we did last time I had the pleasure of joining you in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, we can say without a doubt the situation in Rakhine State is worsening. I thought that I would maybe just say a few words about someone who I met just a few days ago. Her name's Rahana Begum. I originally met Rahana in Darbain IDP camp. She comes from Tandoli village. She's 24 years old. I encountered her. She was alone with a small child, waiting in an outdoor open-air waiting room at a medical clinic in Darbain IDP camp that was empty. There haven't been doctors at this clinic, or staff for that matter, for a very long time. She was the only one there. It was a very hopeless-looking scene, so we asked her about her situation. She, about a month ago, I first met her over 3 weeks ago. About a month ago, she gave birth. She lost the child, and she told us she had been bleeding ever since. We are not a medical organization. We're a human rights documentation and training organization. But it doesn't take a medical expert to know that that's a very serious condition to be in. So we worked with local partners to transfer her to a health clinic that was not too far away in the camps. From there, she received no medical care whatsoever, which is quite common in the IDP camps. We then arranged, worried that she would, that her condition would take her life. We helped arrange for her to be transferred to Sitwe General Hospital. This is a hospital that only serves Buddhist residents in Rakhine State, unless those cases are life-threatening. In some cases, residents of the camps who face life-threatening conditions can be transferred to Sitwe General Hospital, always with great fear. Understandably, people in the camps are very nervous and very scared to travel to Sitwe, even with security. In this particular case, Rahana went to the Sitwe General Hospital, and she was returned the same day. She did not receive any care. She went for 4 consecutive days. She was transferred to Sitwe General Hospital, and on every single occasion, she was neither seen by a doctor nor treated. At one point, they told her perhaps she had a stomach ulcer, and they gave her some medicine, for some over-the-counter medicine for her stomach. She's now been bleeding. I saw her 3 days ago. She was not conscious. She was in her home, and we do fear that this is a situation. If she doesn't receive medical attention, she will die. And we took this information to the diplomatic community in Yangon. We've been talking to others about it over the last 2 days. And I think one of the more troubling aspects of this, and I'm sure you will agree, is that Rahana is just one woman in a camp of 150,000 in a population of Rohingya Muslims in Rakhine State that number up to 1 million, not to mention the abuses faced by communities throughout the country. So I wanted to share that with you to bring home the idea, the fact, the reality that the deprivations that the population in Rakhine State is facing, these are avoidable deprivations. These are avoidable deprivations in humanitarian aid. I think it's safe to say that the government of Myanmar at the state level and at the national level are creating conditions of life designed to be destructive to the Rohingya population. This is something that a situation in which we fear is worsening. We've also documented a number of other abuses. Freedom of movement is probably one of the most damaging human rights violations right now in Rakhine State. I was just speaking with dozens and dozens of people, spoke with police officers who enforce restrictions on freedom of movement, spoke with many people in the camps who talked to us about how effectively how restrictions on freedom of movement infringe on almost every other human right: the right to health, the right to education, the right to a livelihood. If people are being deprived of adequate aid and at the same time they're not allowed to move, they're not allowed freedom of movement, a fundamental basic human right, the result of that will be either destructive or it will lead people to flee the country. And as many of you know, it's the rainy season right now. It was raining every day, very hard. Rains coming down in Rakhine State. This makes camp life that much more difficult. Sicknesses spread faster. Life just becomes a little bit more difficult living in these conditions. People are not taking to the seas right now because the seas are very choppy. They're very dangerous right now. The Bay of Bengal is a dangerous place at this time of year, but the rains are going to let up very soon in the next couple weeks. And we fully expect many, many people will flee the country. It's unclear right now if they will face the same type of abuse at the hands of transnational human traffickers that we've seen over the last couple years. Governments are paying a lot of attention to the traffickers. Our fear right now is that they're not paying enough attention to the Rohingya people who are fleeing these abuses and falling into the hands of traffickers. So prosecuting traffickers is important, but unfortunately, people are still fleeing Myanmar because the root causes have not been addressed. Governments are not putting enough pressure on Myanmar. The UN is not putting enough pressure on Myanmar. And unfortunately, the broader population in the country is not putting enough pressure on its own government to end these abuses. So we are expecting another exodus to occur. We spoke with many people who are planning to flee the country. So this is a concern. Other abuses we're documenting still. Forced labor is very common still in northern Rakhine State. The Tatmadaw and state security forces are using men, women, and children for forced labor. We reported that in the first half of 2014 alone, we had information that indicated there were up to 8,000 cases of forced labor. Men, women, and children being forced by state security forces, mostly the National Army, the Tatmadaw, which it's worth adding is the one institution that Naypyidaw is arguing is keeping the peace in Rakhine State. Residents in Rakhine State, of course, tell a different story, particularly in the north. So this is a big concern as well, and it's not being addressed not only by the international community but other actors that are in Myanmar that are engaging with the government of Myanmar. Looking forward, the elections have created quite a lot of tension in the camps. The fact that Rohingya candidates are being systematically disenfranchised from the election process is very concerning. Other Muslims as well are being disenfranchised, disqualified from running for office. We were recently with U Shwe Mong, who is, as many of you know, a Rohingya MP, working with a Rohingya MP at the union level MP with the USDP party. The Rakhine State Election Commission disqualified his disqualified him from running for office in the next elections. He last week went to appeal that decision in Rakhine State. We accompanied him as a human rights monitor, and he was expecting a hearing. So he was expecting to go to the election commission, present evidence indicating that he should be eligible to run, that he is a citizen of Myanmar. He should be eligible to run. His father was a civil servant. He's got an enormous amount of documentation going through his family lineage and his family history. He did not receive a hearing, however. He went in and the so-called hearing was over within 10 seconds. The decision had already been made that U Shwe Mong would not be allowed to run for parliament in the upcoming elections in November. So now he's on his way to, he's in Naypyidaw, he was there a couple of days ago, requesting that the union-level election commission review the decision. The union-level election commission is not required by law to review the decision. In Myanmar, state-level decisions by the election commission are deemed final. We do know that the US, the UK, and other governments around the world have provided financing to the election commission. We have brought this information and our concerns to the US Embassy and others in Myanmar, expecting Western governments to use their leverage to at least ensure that Muslim candidates for the upcoming election are allowed to indeed run for office. We fear the worst. We fear that the election commission will be successful in disqualifying Muslim candidates, particularly Rohingya candidates. And we would encourage all of you to speak with your elected officials there in America and request that they contact the relevant authorities in the U.S. government and in other governments as well to put some pressure on this issue. I guess before I go, I would just like to say thank you so much. It's wonderful that you're all gathering there today. I wish I could be there to give a big hug to Greg Stenton, Wakar Udin, Taylwin U, Brian Lay, and all of you other friends in the community there. This is too brief of a message to go through all of the people there that I wish I could see right now. But please keep up the fantastic work that you're all doing. While the situation is worsening in Rakhine State, and I would argue in throughout Myanmar on this issue, we do have hope. There's an American religion scholar named Cornel West, who some of you might be familiar with. And Cornel West likes to say that he's not an optimist, but he's a prisoner of hope. And we feel that way. And I think many of you coming together there are also demonstrating the power that people can bring to these situations, and you're demonstrating a certain hope. So with that, I will leave you, and thank you so much. And I would like to stay in touch with all of you. Have a great day. Thanks so much.